The United Arab Emirates just walked out of one of the world's most powerful oil alliances. Not because it wanted out of the oil business. It left so it could pump more, not less. On April 28, 2026, after 59 years of membership, the UAE simply walked away. This wasn't sudden. The UAE had spent years pushing OPEC, and Saudi Arabia specifically, to raise its production ceiling, and kept losing that argument. Underneath that dispute is a bigger wager that a low-cost producer can sell aggressively now and still come out ahead almost no matter what happens next. OPEC works by assigning each member a production ceiling. Leaving meant the UAE could ignore that ceiling entirely. By June, it was pumping a record 4.1 million barrels a day. Most of that extra oil moves through Fujairah, a port on the UAE's east coast built specifically so exports never have to pass through the Strait of Hormuz at all. That decision landed in the middle of the most volatile year oil markets had seen in a decade, and volatility is exactly what a quota system is built to manage. On February 27th, Brent crude sat at $72.48 a barrel. After Iran and the US went to war and attacks hit the Strait of Hormuz, it climbed to $126.41 by April 30th. It fell back near $70 by early July, then climbed past $100 again within 3 weeks. Most of that swing had nothing to do with how much oil people actually wanted. It came from war, and from how nervous shipping insurers got about one strait that a fifth of the world's oil has to pass through. Here's the uncertainty that makes the UAE's bet make sense. The two institutions that study oil for a living can't agree on where demand is headed. The IEA's main forecast has demand still growing to 113 million barrels a day by 2050. OPEC's forecast comes in higher, 124 million same year, more than 10 million barrels apart. And that's the closer of the IEA's two forecasts. Its other case has demand peaking by 2030, then falling from there instead of growing at all. That's the two organizations most responsible for tracking oil, disagreeing by tens of millions of barrels a day on the same question. Nobody actually knows which future is coming. If even the experts can't agree, a low-cost producer has a strong incentive to sell hard while the oil is still worth something. So that bet got tested directly. 20,000 simulated versions of the next 25 years, each one changing a handful of uncertain forces. How fast electric cars spread, how much Asia and Africa's economies grow. The middle outcome across all 20,000 runs, oil demand around 102 million barrels a day in 2050. Barely different from today. Right in between what the IEA and OPEC each expect. Electric cars determine how fast gasoline demand falls. 1 in 4 new cars sold worldwide in 2025 was already electric. But in the simulation, the bigger uncertainty was different. Whether rising incomes across Asia and Africa push up demand for driving, flying, and plastics faster than electric cars remove it. That's the bet underneath the UAE's decision. Oil demand growing more from economic development in the places it's still spreading, not shrinking as fast as electric cars alone would suggest. That uncertainty isn't abstract for the countries selling the oil. Look at Saudi Arabia's own numbers from this year. In the first 3 months of 2026, Saudi Arabia ran a deficit of 125.7 billion riyal. That's 76% of its entire year's budgeted deficit, spent in 1 quarter. In the simulation, Saudi Arabia's core budget held up across most runs. Its much larger investment program, the new cities and tourism megaprojects, was different. Counted together, financial strain became one of the model's most common outcomes. For producers with smaller reserves, states like Nigeria, the same uncertainty isn't about mega projects. It's whether the government can keep funding fuel subsidies and basic services at all. Which is what makes the UAE's position different. It combines low production costs with deep financial reserves and a lighter spending burden than most of its neighbors. It isn't carrying the kind of commitments that create Saudi Arabia's exposure. Across the simulation, the UAE stays financially viable in a wider range of price outcomes than almost any other producer. That math doesn't stay private. Every other OPEC member can run the same numbers, and some will like the answer far less than the UAE did. Leaving the formal group doesn't mean the UAE stops talking to Saudi Arabia. Watch whether their production still moves together in practice, even without a shared quota to enforce it. One thing worth watching before the decade is out: whether a second OPEC Plus country follows the UAE out the door. For decades, the oil story was about who has the most of it. Now it's about who can afford to be wrong about how much anyone still wants.